Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Untold. This is the show where we have amazing people, and today is no exception. We have an amazing person again because we've honestly enjoyed our time with her so much.
Her untold story continues. In this episode, we will talk with Hawraa Khalfan again. We will talk about the importance of writing, and today we will visit another other subjects like workshops for writers, how the community connects together. Abdullah.
Yeah, so if you're going to look at the previous episode as part one, this is going to be part two because off camera, Hawara was talking about how they have workshops for writers, how they help and offer a lot of space to emerging writers, right?
Mm.
They want to enhance them, they want to improve them, they want to allow them to write with such ease, with such delicacy. And we were like, okay, let's do another episode, Lefhazia again.
Yes.
And this is that episode.
Yes, I think this episode will complete everything we need to know from Hawraa. So everyone stay with us and don't go away.
And welcome back from the break, dear viewers. We are very glad to have you back, but also we're glad to have you, Hawraa, again with us on The Untold. And I do want to share with the viewers that on the first episode we've had you, our producers had so many questions. We, didn't go through a lot of them. So we're like, apologies, producers. We are going to bring Hawraa again. So
Yes.
thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here again, Hawraa. I think that we need to dig deeper in this episode about Hawraa and also about writing. In your opinion, as a writer or for the writers, what they see is different than other people. People, how they move, how they talk, and these all ideas for writing. Do you think writers should look to people in a different way?
I do think that writers need to notice everything around them. And if you don't notice everything, you run out of setting and description, and so sometimes it's easy for us to just kind of take out our phones and take a picture, but when you're not in that position, you need the skill of noticing.
Yes. I
Yeah.
think they get a little bit obsessive, the writers.
Mhm.
They need to know things. They ask questions. I have this, but I don't write anything else.
Honestly, I'm really happy that you highlighted the point that writers are, I would say a superstar kind of people because it reminded me of a novel that I wrote called Pale Fire. So just let me give you a brief of how super, special kind of person requires to write this thing. So it was written by an author, right? It's called Vladimir Nabokov. And so he wrote as a critic, criticizing his own work. And then within the novel, he wrote a poem. So he has a critic, he has a poet. He's criticizing his own poetry.
Mm.
And then outside the poetry, he's writing a story for how the poetry, the initial poet, came to write that poem. And within all of this, he's telling a story. It's like 4 layers of a story within a book. And again, this is just to highlight how, to me personally, I'm always fascinated by writers because they seem like they see so many dimensions of the world, right?
Yes,
They gotta know the ending to a story, to the beginning. They're not seeing just the now. And this is just an elaborate rant to
Yes.
say writers are a special kind of people.
Well said, Abdullah, and I can translate that in a small phrase.
Summarize that.
Yeah. Writers, they have a hint of, let's say, craziness. What do you think? They are crazy in terms of sometimes you have a dream. I know that because I studied literature. They have a dream and they base the story on that dream, and they wake up in the middle of the night and they go and write the idea. Do you think that writers should be with this craziness, sense of craziness?
Sense of bouncing around, like your brain's constantly bouncing around, you need to document the thought that you had. Yes, absolutely. I think it's not that you should be, it's that you end up becoming, because you know how important that you have the emotion associated with that thing, the idea or the concept that you had, and you're like, it's a really good idea, and you'll do anything to just get it out of you. And sometimes you use your emotions as fuel to express yourself in a more vivid way. Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's really special because mental illnesses, I'm not saying that writers.
Oh, thanks.
No. Because they can be obsessive about ideas, about writing, about putting down. Do you think that this will affect your mind in a negative way while you keep on living and being a writer? Do you think quitting is better?
No, absolutely not, because I think that if I quit, I will end up with a mental illness.
You know, I think writing can be a getaway for a lot of people, right? Especially for people who, I mean, myself included, I don't really know how to express myself verbally. So in writing, I can more translate my thoughts into a lot of good words that I feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you about something because you mentioned before in your socials again that, you know, writing helps you understand, or you got into writing to understand conflicting worlds within yourself or with the outside world. So has your view on life, it still remains now after you wrote so much, you understand a lot of these worlds?
My views are very, what's the term that I can put it in? I can make space for the bad thing that happened, and then the consequence of that bad thing happening. Let's say you go through a car crash, then you have anxiety and you can't drive anymore. I can make space for the fact that the car crash wouldn't have happened if the person driving wasn't on their phone, and also make space, and that's, you know, notice that that's wrong and paint it in a picture that shows that it's wrong, but also know that humans are human and humans make mistakes and humans learn through these mistakes. And so I think that there's like a balance. I think that's the best way I
Yes.
can.
We go back to how to write. Now let's go and the construction of a story. Sometimes you go and you say, I will do this for this, and this is the end. Do you change the end just because you, let's say, rethink something better, or take us to
Okay.
the construction of it?
So I had over plotted. And so I tried to plot everything and have it all structured. And I plotted it, and then I realized that I had written 2 books by accident.
Yeah.
And then I had to cut it down. And then there was like half of this book. Now I need it to be a standalone book because it makes more sense as a standalone book. And I had to go back and like kind of input scenes to solidify the characters in that half where there was information that came out later that I needed here. And so, yeah, it's a fluid process. Writing is very fluid, and you really have to allow your characters to thrive in the way that they do. But you do have to keep in mind that when you begin to write a story, you have an idea, and at least that's how I do it. I have an idea in mind. I have a theme that I want to talk about. I have a character that I think will be perfect. I build her based on being able to talk about this thing.
Yes.
And I have to always go back to the fact that the ending needs to do justice to that theme and that character. And so, yes, I will plot it, but if I feel like the plot is not doing the thing that I want it to do and kind of sending the message that I need to send, then I will change it. I will cut it.
But the unreality of just ending, it's not always the reality, right? So if you give, like, it's a thin line between giving a justice for this character or telling people that this is life. You can lose, you can. This is like something, how to say, it's difficult, extremely difficult to do, especially because the reaction is different than your thoughts and your imagination. So how do you do that? How do you think that this is the end result? I really like it. I will publish this.
I got to a point of an end result when I realized that there's the, like, I see what you're saying. There is story structure, and story structure is really important to get people to keep listening or keep reading or keep watching the movie or whatever
Yes.
it is. And so there's a balance between maintaining the story structure that you need and making sure the ending hits, but at the same time doing justice to the story itself and kind of not caring what the reader thinks. And my version of that was to know really well that and really have it solid in my perspective on the story that this is not the last story in that world. And so I built in the entire world,
Yeah.
and it's a dystopian fiction. And so the world is built for me to be able to tell young girls stories, and so it can't only be this story. There are multiple books that and so I had to like go back and put seeds for the second and third and fourth book.
Yeah, I said that, Abdullah, because you can write a tragedy and still give the character justice, but it's still tragedy.
Yeah.
Start with an orphan girl and she will come, and this is, so it's how to make these characters work, especially to relate to to the reality of social justice. As you know, we live in a society, it's not always fair. This is life. When you read this and you have this an injustice in you, so you can relate, and this can be a good story, Abdul.
It is, yeah. But honestly, for me personally, when I saw a lot of negative reviews on one of my books, I got into their social media accounts and I immediately left them bad comments. So for me, I really try to tell a story. I really try to tell whatever's on my mind. I rarely think about what's going to happen, what's the effect of it, or whatever. I do want to go back to something you mentioned before, is that you said you wrote so much things that it could be 2 novels, but then you had to cut them off. And sad, this is something that happens to a lot of writers. There's actually an article about it. It's called Kill Your Darlings, where a lot of writers have got to learn the technique of knowing not to hold on to something they seem as precious, so they can come up with the actually precious thing. Did you encounter this kind of thing? Did you feel this kind of heartbreak whenever you were cutting those 2 novels into one? And what did you keep that for later? Did you leave the breadcrumbs, like it said? What happened?
I didn't leave it for later, but I do have a file called Graveyard. And then I just cut and pasted everything into the Graveyard. And the Graveyard is there only for me to, it's like a journal entry. It's only there for me to reflect on later on, to look at the earlier drafts and be like, yeah, I made a good choice, or maybe I should have kept that. It's just for noticing, just for the, yeah.
Yeah. I think writers, we can't be our own critics, because if you get the option, you're never going to stop. I mean, you previously said in the previous episode, you made 7 drafts for one of your books, and that just showed you, if there's no end line, if there's nobody to hold you accountable, you're going to be editing. You're going to be going back, oh, there's a word on page 40 I need to change. There's a sentence on page 90 I need to change. So when do you, Hawraa, truly know, okay, this is something I can deliver now?
When I get bored of going back to the book and opening the document. But that's a really good question, because this is my 3rd year working on this book, and now I'm at a point where I'm like, come on, like, just let it go, And someone the other day asked me a question and said, if there was something that negative, that reviewers, like a negative review that someone could leave on about the book or the story that would hurt but also be true, what would it be? And I said that I learned how to write in the process of writing this story.
Oh, yes.
Because I did. I know there's going to be mistakes. I know that there are scenes that I could have described better, but I need to let it go, because I can work on it for 10 years easily and still,
Since you mentioned 10 years, and before that 3 years to write a book, tell me about the timeline. How long it takes for a book to be finished, usually?
I don't know. It depends on the book. Like,
For you?
For me, okay, so I will give myself a set deadline based on, I'll break it down. Like, I'll
Why
really break it
deadline?
down.
Keep it open.
Because there's so many stories in my head. I have way more ideas than I have time, because I have a full-time job. I'm a mom. I have, there's so much going on. And
Why
so,
do you have other ideas? Why don't you just finish this book? This is just me. I'm not a writer.
But
so
what's finish? That's the question. When is it finished?
Yeah, this is
Because I can always go back and make it better. So
That's
very,
trap.
very difficult to go back to go. Of course, you can make it bigger. The amount of information you can put in this book or change is infinite. You can really make it better every day.
Yeah.
Just when do you see this is the book? I want this book to be like this. That's fine.
When I got sick of it, honestly, really, I'm not even exaggerating. It came to a point where, okay, I have so many stories, other stories that I know I could do better. And now I got to a point where I plotted this story when my knowledge of stories was less. And so I know that if I deleted all of it and rewrote it today, it would be so much better. But limita, I have to move on. I have to work on something else.
And honestly, I kind of feel that, because sometimes you're reading something you wrote, and it's, whether it's subconsciously, whether it's something, feeling, whatever, you stop, mid-paper, and you're like, okay, I'm finally done. I can put the pen down.
Yeah.
I think I do get that sentiment. With that being said, we are going to take a break, and we'll come right back after this one.
And we are back again to the Untold, and with us, teacher and writer Hawraa Khalfan. Hawraa, let's talk about writers workshop. This is something we don't know anything about, me and Abdullah. Can you tell us about this?
Well, we try to organize workshops where we bring writers, we invite writers from all over the country, whoever is interested in writing in Arabic or in English, to come to ask for feedback on something that they've written, to perform something to a group of other writers, to find writing friends. We do writing marathons as well, where we kind of just force everyone in a room in a cafe. And
Men and women, right?
Yeah, it's men and women, and honestly, my favorite one of those is the writing marathons, because a lot of people say I don't have time to write. I'm like, sign up for a marathon, like you just come and you spend like 4 hours with a group of writers, and you're all just writing together.
Do you think that it's important for the writers to go there, not necessarily for upgrading the writings for them, but to know other writers?
It's so important because writing is really lonely. It's not like you're creating with other people, and because it's like that, it's great to have other people who go through the same experiences that you do.
Yeah, and also the feedback loop is very important. Because a lot of writers, they can't be their own judgment to their work. So having that group of people who tell you, no, you know, this kind of act doesn't make sense to this kind of act, this kind of storyline doesn't lead to this kind of storyline, it's very important. So talk us through these workshops, like what happens, you know, regularly in the workshops?
We have some workshops where we'll invite people to bring a poem, a specific poem, and we will workshop it with them. So we'll tell them, read it out loud, and then we'll tell them, change this word to this. If your point is this, then maybe cut the sentences shorter, or this would be. So we just kind of help them make it stronger. Sometimes we will bring a facilitator who is really, really good at a specific thing. For example, short stories. And we will have her talk about short stories, the form, teach the structure, and invite people to write their stories and send them over. And so there's so many different ways that we do these kinds of gatherings.
Are they all young writers? Is there like a hierarchy of veteran writers, now stars writers and beginners?
No, we mix everyone together, because I think when we're talking about feedback loops, it's so important for you to be able to get feedback from everyone in the room and on different levels.
It's not easy to do that actually, because some people may say, you want to teach me something. I guess, I don't know about writers, but like maybe they get offended. Who are you to teach me something?
We always start with criticism is constructive. Everyone cares that you grow, and that's the entire point. And if you can't take criticism, please let us know. We won't give you criticism. So we will invite people to say, what do you need from this reading? Do you want us to give you praise, or do you want us to, and if you, or do you want criticism? And if you want criticism, what do you want us to focus on? So it's not just generally, we just tear it to shreds, you know, it's very specific.
I do want to ask something about these workshops, because I know for a lot of people, you know, the hardest thing about coming with a story, the hardest thing about writing is actually coming up with the first word. Because usually when you have the first word, you're going to find the second, third, fourth, you know, to infinity. But finding that first word is always the hardest. So from your experience with these workshops, what do a lot of writers find or struggle with?
Writing redundancies. So they will say something and then they will say it again, and then they will tell you that they said it. And the repetition there, usually that's how you lose readers. And so that's the most common mistake that that will automatically be like, okay, just go through it and only press the delete key. What would you change? What do you not need here?
So I think there are a lot of techniques, especially for writers, to teach other writers, especially the youngsters. Now, can you see and spot a writer, since like maybe your children or something, that they have the imagination of becoming a writer?
I think you're kind of formed into that based on your experiences.
Other writers cannot know that he can or she can be a great writer.
I don't know. I can't spot that. If that is a skill that people have, I can't do that.
Writing is really difficult. That's why, because you need to have, what do you say about they need to have a really tough life to become a great writer, not a good writer? You can be a good writer, but greatness comes from suffering. What do you say?
I think, I don't know if it's greatness comes from suffering, but it's greatness comes from noticing all the suffering around you. So I think you need to just have the eye to notice it. For example, I have never been a domestic helper in a house, but I can put my shoes in a domestic helper's like point of view. I can see it from their point of view. Like,
But you
and
can't 100%. That's my idea, because you cannot put your shoes actually.
I can guess
You
how
can
it would
guess.
feel
It's not
if
this.
I was in 1, 2, 3, 4. Because even the male characters I've written, I don't know what it's like to be a guy, and I have to guess. I have to constantly be guessing.
Yeah.
And so, like,
Do you think this
it's
is
kind of-
perfect for you to write about? Maybe another.
What do you mean?
Like you said, like I can imagine
Mhm.
putting myself in her shoes. Domestic. You can't. You know that, right?
No, I can imagine what it would be like for someone who like has 3 kids back home and had to come here for XYZ and what I can imagine. But I haven't lived it. There's a huge difference between imagination and experience.
Of course, yeah.
And it's really important to like understand that having empathy and imagination is not experience.
Of course.
And so that's what you're saying.
Yes.
It's not experience, and I understand that. And
Yeah.
of course I know that.
A lot of stories we know about a lot of famous people. They were in a great suffering, especially the athletes or actors, name it. They all have their story. I was watching Diego Maradona. Do you know the football player?
Mhm.
His story was really of suffering. It's nothing good about his life growing up. That's why he said, "I want to be a player so I can buy a house." Can you imagine? Of course you can imagine, but it's not the same.
Love a house.
Yes, it's not the same. We all want a house. What do you think, Abdullah?
Yeah, honestly, I think for a lot of people, suffering could lead to storytelling, but I don't necessarily think it's a one-to-one equation because, Shakespeare, he basically invented modern English. He wasn't poor, he had his own theater. That's how he came up with a lot of his poetry. He was doing those plays in his own theater. Vladimir Nabokov, we were talking about him in the break. He's a professor at university, and he's considered by a lot of people to be the best author, period. But then also you have, I think, like
Maybe he has an untold story.
he has an untold story. Yeah.
Maybe.
But also, on the flip side,
Maybe
I
he's
think
big.
Alexander Dumas, who wrote The Three Musketeers, he was, a little bit on the suffering side.
Yeah, yeah.
So you
I'm not
do
saying
have,
it's a rule. I'm
yeah,
just
you do have both
just-
worlds.
yeah.
Right? Yeah. I do want to ask you about something. Let's go back to the workshops.
Yeah.
Are there like people can sign up to them occasionally, frequently? Are they open around the clock? What's the process there?
People can sign up whenever they want. They are available monthly. We try to encourage people to express themselves, and it's mostly about normalizing creativity and creating in Kuwait. And so I've been doing these kinds of meetings and workshops since 2012, maybe.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, since like my early 20s. And the idea behind it was literally just to keep people writing, because when people are writing, they're healthier and they're noticing and they're creating, and you feel so much better about having friends who are or having a community who see you in that way and understand you in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we keep doing it every month. We have something going on.
Do you think there will be a time where you stop these workshops and that I had enough? I am too old for this, maybe in 10, 20 years.
When I first had my kids, I stopped for a while, and it became such an important part of who I am that I went back as soon as my kids were old enough. Like as soon as I felt like, okay, now I can like have the time and create these things. It's I don't know. It's one of those. I don't know if I can ever actually take that part of me out of the community building part of me out of my life.
Yeah. Because they are special breed, as I said, they need to come together and share ideas. Now I have something, because you mentioned kids. I have kids too. I don't have time for writing. I mean, if I am a writer, I don't have time for anything actually. So how do you what do you say to the writers who are without kids? Maybe they are not in relationship, they have full time. Do you think this will enhance your writing skills and time if you are really 100% free?
Oh my God, yes, it's the dream. if I could not have
I
any
didn't
other
expect
work
that answer.
outside of writing, I would thrive. I would be like the best version of myself. But at the same time, I think that when it comes to navigating the world with the time constraints of the modern world,
Yeah.
it's you can figure out the time. Look at your screen time. Just go into your settings and check out the screen time on your phone, and then tell yourself half of that I'm going to spend it writing. And whatever it is, that number, 2 hours,
Yeah.
that's an hour a day. An hour a day is beautiful. Like, I don't know.
I said that because I need advice of this subject. You said, let me ask you again and let's explain.
Mm.
If you are single without kids,
Okay.
you think you can be a better writer?
Absolutely, yeah. 100%.
Why do you say that? Because this is very
They steal my time all the time because they're so small. But like, I would be a better writer because I would have more time to read. I would have more time to practice. I
Yes.
would have more time to just sit with myself and do the skills.
But you
and the-
also can be as good if you manage the time,
It
right?
just takes longer. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize how much time there is in 24 hours. Like I said, if you really spend one day noting down everything you do, you're probably gonna have like 10 hours of it. You're doing nothing, right? You're sitting at the couch, you're taking a nap, you're watching TV, you're playing video games,
Yeah.
you're playing whatever on your phone. So if you dissect that time, you devote it to something you are curious about, you're gonna have a lot of time within your busy life. It's all about time management.
But also, Kuwait is a beautiful place to live. Like, you have companies that can deliver your groceries. They can deliver your meal if you're in a rush. You can commute everywhere that you need to go. You can rely on your family if you're really, really stuck. Like my mother-in-law, love you so much. I don't know if you guys are gonna keep this in here, but like she has my kids this week, and I could write so much this week because she was like, you know what, give me the kids. And so Kuwait is just great when it comes to a sense of community, when it comes to the services that are available to us. And so I am able to do these things because I have these privileges, and it would be silly of me not to notice the privileges that I have that allow me to be able to write.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, because a lot of people don't realize that, there's a lot of, I would say, the pressures of a hectic life outside in the Western world. But alhamdulillah, in Kuwait, we are living very comfortably. Like you said, everything you can have can reach you within your house. You can write, you can have your coffee, you can have your meals, you can have whatever activity you want to do, all within the confines of your own home, which is, a blessing.
Yes, it's a blessing, and it's a blessing to have you here, Hawraa. We really enjoyed this interview, and how straightforward you are. It's very delightful for me. I love these answers. Like 100%, I don't care if you get hurt or something. This is my answer. Thank you so much for coming to the Untold and tell us your story. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I had fun talking to you guys.
Thank you. We are honored to have you as a guest again. So we want to thank you again and again. But also, we want to thank you, dear viewers, for staying tuned. We are going to take a break, so stay tuned till after the break. Well, that wraps part 2 of our conversation with Hawraa. She was
Yes.
kind enough to join us again, so we do want to thank her for that.
Yes, Hawraa Khalfan, she's one of kind. She told her story. In this second part of the interview, I think we learn about workshops. I think writers, they have a difficult time writing because they need a lot of time. And she, I think, gave the viewers about how it feels to be a writer. And she gave the formula, and I hope all the viewers can take something from that.
Yeah, honestly, I really enjoyed how the highlight of this episode was these workshops, right? It allows writers to have, spaces to contribute their art with each other, to provide feedback. So that's a really important, piece of location, I would say, in the writing process.
Yes.
So we do want to thank Hawraa again for joining us and
Yes.
elaborating on that.
Yes, of course, especially time management. As we said, she's a teacher, mom, and a writer. Now she joins workshops. So time management is everything, Abdullah.
Yes.
So I think we reached the end of this episode of your show, The Untold Story. Until the next episode, stay safe and goodbye.